Welcome to the Spin More Deals Selling Smarter, Not Harder with Video webinar with Christopher Kimbell. Christopher, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, Matthew. How about yourself?
I'm doing great. Thank you for joining us today. And you're a member of the trade pending team here, but you've got a background in automotive. We're going to get to that in just a moment here. So off we go. I'm Matthew here. I'm Chief Marketing Officer at Trade Pending. Christopher, Customer Success Manager at Trade Pending. Again, we'll come back to you here in a moment, Christopher. We do record these. We share them out afterwards. If you have questions, throw them in the chat. We've also got some that were submitted ahead of time. I got those printed out here. The type is really small. Probably should have brought my readers, but I didn't. So we're just going to have to deal with that. That's right. If you haven't seen it, I mean, we embrace video at Trade Pending. I'm out filming video in dealerships, interviewing random people on the street, shooting video here in the Trade Pending TV studio. We practice what we preach. You should tune into this stuff because not only is it informative, sometimes it's actually entertaining as well. At least I hope it is. People tell me it is, not just my mom. All right. So let's skip through that one real quick. All right, Christopher, tell us like your background, how you ended up at Trade Pending, and ultimately like you sold cars in the past. Give us the story.
Yeah, absolutely. So my sales career or car sales career goes back maybe 2016, 2017, around there. And funny enough, I before was selling cars, I was actually retail district manager for GNC. A mentor calls me up and he goes, "Hey man, you're still working at GNC?" And I was like, "Yeah." He goes, "You're too talented for that place. Print your resume out and take it to dealerships." My next off day, that's exactly what I did. I printed out my resume and I just went door to door handing out my resume to different dealerships. Some people interviewed me on the spot and some people didn't. Some people, just got me out of the showroom. This particular store I'm standing in front of, they goes, "All right, man, you interviewed great. When can you start? Could you sell a car today?" And my heart kind of dropped. I've never sold a car before, but I was like, I'm in front of all the managers. I was like, yeah, sure. I can make that work, right? So I actually ended up joining car sales like the same day that I printed out my resume,
No
and
kidding.
it taught me a whole lot. I mean, it put a trajectory for my career to levels that I didn't think were going to be possible. That first day, spoiler alert, I did not sell a car, but after that, I sold several cars, hundreds, probably six, seven hundreds cars in the time that I was selling vehicles. And I've always tried to embrace some form of pictures or some form of video in that process. So anytime I sold a car to a customer, didn't matter how I was dressed, how they were dressed, I tried to take a picture of it, or I tried to capture that moment. And what I would do with those photos is I would have them around my desk, right? So when customers would come in, they just see me, whole bunch of smiles, whole bunch of deals everywhere. And it kind of had a little bit of that invisible rapport that you build, right? From the way you carry yourself, from the things that you present, and from kind of like your demeanor. But customers would see that, and
Yeah.
they're like, "Wow, this guy sold so many cars to these people." Made it a little easier for me to sell more cars. This is a funny photo. I used to
Let's say,
talk a
look
lot of
how
smack.
young you look there, Christopher.
I used to talk a lot of smack in the dealership, and I was never a 20 plus car a month guy, right? And I would talk smack to all the veterans. They'd sell 20, 30 cars. I say, "Hey, well, this month I'm going to beat you on the sales board." So they printed this photo out of me and they pasted it on the wall. And they say, "All right, man, every car you mark off, every day you sell one, you're going to mark it off. And if you don't hit 20 cars, we're going to make fun of this guy the whole month." And that's how this photo came place. Spoiler alert, I got to 19. I did not get to 20
Oh,
cars there. So it was always fun, but that was one thing that I appreciated in sales. I learned a lot throughout that time period, and there was always a unique way to challenge myself or turn that into something fun. Funny games like the one that we just saw there. So car sales was amazing. I loved it. I'm very grateful for that process going through it. And eventually it landed me over to trade pending. I used
right.
to want to be a rep so bad for Nissan. The Nissan rep name was Tony Walker. And it was like a walled garden. I could never get into that space because I love the features and technology of the cars. And eventually I ended up finding software as a service and kind of never looked back. So that was my
Yeah.
way of becoming a rep. Maybe not directly for the OEM, but I landed at trade pending
You're
and we have
doing
so
all
many
right.
products. Yep,
You're doing all right. All
100%.
right. So a part of your story though is that you're going from 10 cars a month, 12 cars a month up to 20 and beyond. And I
Mhm.
think this context is really important for the audience today because it tells that story in a unique way of why video became important to us. Like distill that down for us. And then from there, we'll go into like what you're coaching people on today and really hit those bullet points that we outlined in the webinar. So over to you.
Absolutely. So beginning selling cars, I think average person could sell 10 to 12 cars, right? And for myself, that's kind of where I fell because, selling cars, it was a little new, the process, the cold calls, all of that. And everybody wants to break 100 grand. Everybody wants to break, those 10K months. And that's kind of what you always hear. When you make your first 100 grand, you won't ever look back, right? So I learned early on, like the math portion was important. If I could sell 12 cars a month, what did I need to do to get to those 12 cars? So for me, we work 6 days a week. It broke down to about 20 phone calls a day, right? And which equated to roughly 500 calls throughout the month. And for myself, I'll be honest, I wasn't the eager salesperson to make phone calls. I was a bit lazy in that regard. 20 was the minimum, right? I made those 20 calls. I wanted to sell more cars, but I did not want to make more phone calls, right? And I mean, people want to get out there and, do those cold dials. So the first thing that I did that kind of taught me to build myself as a brand within the brand or treat my job as a business within a business was I created a referral program whenever I sold a car to a customer, I do one or two things. If they were a little conservative, maybe a calmer customer, I'd take $5 and I'd staple it to my business card, and I would tape it on the inside of their gas tank, and I just write a note, thank you, for your business. Here's $5 for a snack inside, right? If they were a cool customer, younger, I'd do a scratch off ticket instead of the $5, right? Which is pretty neat because for the scratch off, it's a dopamine hit and they would associate that with me, right? But that's the first step to me asking for referrals. Well,
This is
our
when you
dealership,
started becoming gas tank guy, right?
yeah, this is it. So what happened from there is that the moniker gas tank guy came across because I kept putting these business cards, $5 and scratch off tickets inside of gas tanks, or not in the gas tank, but right there in the door. We later got video, and so what I did instead was I created a thank you video for those business cards. I turned it into a QR code, and I came up with kind of like just a basic script for it. It's like, hey, I see you made it to your first fill up. Here's $5. There got to be a snack inside. I want to give you an opportunity to make your first car payment $100 cheaper. If you know anybody in the market, send it my way. If they purchase a vehicle, I'll send you $100. If they don't buy a car, I'll cover your coffee the next day, right? And I'll put that in the business card on the QR code. And what happened was I was able to start getting more referrals because it was cool. It brought my face back up real passively, right? It was a nice way to check in with my customer and stay relevant. But I would say probably after that second or third month, customers would start coming in and they were showing the video. They're like, hey, I'm here for this guy, right? Or hey, I'm here for the gas tank dude. And that kind of became what I was known for. But it equated to about 4 to 6 more car deals per month. So that's how I was able to get up to that 18, that 19 some months, 20 cars a month without having to do the extra phone calls or anything from there. It was kind of like, hey, how can I brand myself within this organization to build a brand or build a business around myself? If
Yeah.
I'm selling, 12, 14 cars a month, 140 cars a year, I could put a referral base to work for me. And we hear it all the time. Work your referral base, work your referral base. Most people do that with phone calls, emails, texts. But I started to throw a video anywhere in the process that I could, whether it was a birthday video, a thank you video. And that's kind of helped. That got me an extra 4 to 6 cars, per month. And I only needed $60 to do it, right? And a quick video because I'd
So
take
yeah, 60
$5 out.
bucks a video, and you knew exactly the pay plan, the marks that you had to hit the next
Exactly.
bonus, the next tier bonus. And 60
100%.
bucks now you're making an additional 1,800, 2,000 bucks a month, right?
It was actually 2,100 because the next unit bonus was $1,800. I was picking up a few extra car deals. So it was right at $2,100, which got me close to that 9K, 10K months from
Got
there.
it.
Because I figured just reverse engineered the math after you had it figured out.
So here you are at Trade Pending now, and you are coaching dealerships on videos and how to do them. We've got a bunch of questions here. Reminder, if you have questions for Christopher, throw them in the Q&A. I'll do my best to field them. If we don't answer them here, we'll share them with Christopher afterwards and have him answer them there. Um, but you start not by saying, "Hey, here's best practice number one" when you walk into a dealership. You're trying to affect the mindset, right? So you
Right.
talked about kind of establishing the obvious. Talk us through what you're saying when you first go in.
Yeah, so when you meet with dealers, a lot of times we all know video is important. We've been affected by it in some version, right? Whether you're shopping for a phone, a car, a house, I don't know. You're looking at some sort of review somewhere, right? So the cool thing is when you meet with dealers is you don't have to necessarily sell the salesperson or the manager on video. You could just ask them, "Hey, when's the last time you bought something? Did you watch a video on it?" You kind of get the obvious out of the way. But one thing that you have to do is you have to shift the mindset or the belief system that video can actually make me more money, right? Video can help put customers into my showroom. And if I'm providing an elevated experience, because that's what it's all about. At the end of the day, everything we do is in service of the customer, and we have to elevate the experience, right? So when I focus on a dealer of talking about that virtual experience, a lot of the time it looks the same. Everybody does the same call. You're using an email template you thought was a great idea that you took from this store from 6 years ago. Like all
All
those
cookie
templates are kind
cutter.
of the
Yeah.
same, all cookie cutter, right? But the one thing that separates anything that we do when a customer is in front of us is ourselves, right? And then when we start talking about experience and, hey, how am I going to stand out from those 5 or 6 different dealerships that this customer also put a lead in online for? If we're just talking experience, eventually they walk themselves to the fact that, hey, I may have the best phone skills in the world, but when that customer sees a voicemail, they have an iPhone, they're reading a voice script. They're not listening to your voicemail anymore, right? Like AI is getting pretty smart. Give you a script of the voicemail. The only way that I'm able to accomplish this is if I insert myself virtually with my face included into that process. So I spend a lot of time talking about the experience and how you set yourself apart here on the showroom because everybody says they have, one of the best showroom processes, right? You have to have the same thing for your virtual showroom as well. And when you can get a salesperson in the mindset of, hey, there's a virtual space I have to take care of with this same level of experience, service, and mandatories as if they were in person, then that helps. And then we slowly get into, the video portion and why that's important. But overall, you have to believe, hey, I'm providing an experience for this customer. The higher that experience, the higher level of persuasion and investment I can get from that customer. And from there, hopefully we can get them in the showroom and make some money out of that process. So
Awesome.
experience is really important.
Going back to your time in the dealership, and now this is, I know you coach people on this as well too, but you were talking about mining cars out of service and how that can be risky. Talk us through what you found there, what you adapted, and how video played a role in that.
Absolutely. So a service customer, of course, is there to just do service work, right? But if you've been in the car game a while, that's a gold mine. If sales are slow, service is probably busy. In some businesses or some dealerships, service keeps the lights on for the sales side. So everybody wants to mine service, and the risk there is you could make a customer a little upset, but there's a nice passive way to do it. And one way that we used to do it in the dealership would be maybe it's changed, but I would get a list of ROs or up and coming appointments from the service advisor. I'd bribe them, with breakfast or whatever it was, right, to make it mutually advantageous for the both of us. And I would go through that list. I worked for Nissan and I would look for cars I knew we could certify. So vehicles within the last 3 to 4 years based on that mileage. Whenever that car was coming in, I had access to Viato or Provisions. I do a quick appraisal. Or if I didn't have access, I would just give the specs to the manager and give them a range of what they would be comfortable putting on the car. I'd put it in on a check and I would write out what the check would be worth and I'd add a QR code to the bottom and I would say scan to claim offer. And I would just leave that inside of the cup holders of customers. So you're touching 10, 12 ROs like that a day. You're really meticulous with the approach. You're not just going after every single vehicle. You're going after the ones that if this customer came in, they're in a good position equity wise based on, what I could see until we begin work a deal. That QR code would open up a video of myself and it would just explain, depending on, we'd refresh the script every so often. Sometimes they'd say, hey, auction prices are high, those vehicles aren't the best. We're reaching out to you, or I left this in your car because you take well good care of your vehicle. You just came up with your own script. But what would happen is some customers, they tear it to the side or they throw it away. But the few that raised their hand, right, the few that came in from the 20 or 30 that we put out, 3 or 4 customers a month, as a passive way, we were able to mine service, without making anyone upset. You'd almost pitch it like a compliment. If you're receiving this offer today, it's because your vehicle's in great shape, that type of thing. So you were delivering that information, that news as a compliment, but you're also just opening the door if they would entertain the possibility of a trade or a sale.
Right. Putting your coaching hat back on, you've gone through, you've kind of built and established the framework of here's how you got to think about this. This is not the business, this is their business. And now you're working with individual people and you've got to coach them.
Mhm.
And they say like, oh, I'm really good at leaving voicemails and doing all these other things. Like, how do you coach people when they start talking about how good they are at other things to translate that into video?
Well, it's kind of simple. You almost hit it right there at the end. If you're so great at that, I know you're going to be great at videos, right? Because a lot of this, even in the voicemails that you're leaving, if you're great on the phone, you have great conversation skills. All you're doing is packaging that up, something you already excel at, and you're putting it into a video. Now, the part that may be a little overwhelming for us is that we're exposing ourselves to something we're unfamiliar with, right? So you may be a little shy on video, or you may be, a critic on yourself on video. But I would always say to that person, you start small. How can I get some practice in for this for someone that's already seen me? A great place, the last 7 customers that you sold. Send them a video. That way you can get used to seeing yourself on camera. Because when you're on camera, your face is flipped, right? It's inverted. It's not like looking in a mirror. At times, like you may notice certain things about yourself, but you start small. If you're already great, that's perfect. You're gonna stand out just fine when you start sending videos. But you want to get comfortable with pulling the phone out and sending it out to customers. And the first place I always recommend anyone to start is the last 7 customers that you sold. For one, I know it's a CRM task. They want you to call them. They want you to see how it's going anyway, to see if they're still happy with the vehicle after 7 days. And for two, they already know how you present. They already know your tonality. They already know your demeanor. They already know how you dress. So it's very easy for you to reach out to those customers. Then after they've done that, I'll challenge them. I say, hey, that's awesome. It's great. After you've done that, that new lead that you've done, right? That new lead that you're coming across for, send them a quick video. But in that video, don't just respond to the inquiry. Tell them that you're great at this and you do make this process easy. We are in sales and part of it is selling yourself. And if there's anything that you do in your store specifically that makes this process convenient, that's something you should be telling your customers. Hey, Matthew, at TradePending Motors, we make it easy. We save you a lot of time, right? We're the number one JD Power Rater dealership in the last 3 years, the last 4 years. You can talk about those things and sell yourself in that. But I would start with customers I've already interacted with. Then I would transition to fresh opportunities. Because if a fresh opportunity responds, high likelihood they're showing up in your showroom. So it's not like
Right.
you're trying to respark a cold customer. We got a new lead in. Let me provide that experience from the start. Let me start here with it.
Christopher, can you share with us the video that you were showing me before we kick this thing off officially?
Oh
So
yeah,
this
absolutely.
is it's getting to that part of just getting other people comfortable in the video. You were selling cars at this point, but you were getting other people comfortable with using video. Tell us what we're looking at here.
Yeah, so I'm gonna mute the audio partially because it's old footage and we are critic of ourselves. But one thing that I would always like to do is it's very similar to that manager TO that you do in the showroom where you get a second face to reinforce a message. Here, I would always try to grab a salesperson, anybody that wasn't busy or somebody I was close with, and I would get them to collaborate these videos with me, right? And get them involved as well. Because if you can establish a culture to where everybody on your sales staff, for one, is helping each other, right? If you're excelling at something and you're sharing that information with someone else, you're kind of building a little bit of a tribe, a little bit of a family in the dealership. But if you could get people to jump in these videos with you, you see the transitions here. We're
Wait,
jumping
where'd you
from
come
car to
from?
car. We're going from car to car here. We're talking about used car specials, right? What you'll find is that becomes, the standard across the board for your stores or for your sales staff. You're building camaraderie there. And sometimes it takes a salesperson to initiate that, right? Or sometimes
Yeah.
it takes a sales manager to initiate that. But we're building that confidence across the board, closing them out. Later, this guy here ends up being the Nissan guy. If I search for it,
Oh, jeez.
he actually ends up after. Yeah, he ends up
You
being the
created the Nissan guy. There we go.
Yep. This is the whole thing. They continue to do it, and you like inherit the title of Nissan
Yeah.
guy. So you do the social media, but there he is. So, it started with just little things like that, right? And building a culture around it, making it fun, and grabbing someone else because sometimes, someone may want to do what you're doing, but again, they could have that critique of themselves, and you may be good at it. So you share that info. It's like each one teach
Yeah.
one in that
Thank you for
particular
sharing that.
space.
So, um, did you, at that point, were you trying to build a personal brand or were you picking off the dealership's brand? How did that work? How did you get your reach and what was the impact of that?
Great question. So I really don't have social media, right? But you'd be fooled if you go to the dealership's page. I didn't want to put the effort in, just like I told you earlier. I didn't want to make a whole bunch more phone calls. I didn't want to put the effort in of trying to build a social media page. The dealership had already had thousands of followers. So I just asked the GM if I could start doing videos on the dealership's page. And that's what it was. So it's like piggybacking off of what they're already using. The dealership provides those tools to you. They have a CRM that has thousands of customers. You're picking back in off of that. Most dealerships' Facebook pages are underutilized. So you could take that following they already have established and become the face of it. And that helped me out because I would get stopped in grocery stores. I get stopped sometimes in the gym. And like, oh, that's the Nissan guy. Hey man, are you working this weekend? It'd just be random customers. But I didn't need to create my own following for that. I took what the dealership had
Yeah.
already established and I just worked on top of it. So smarter, not harder, right? Spend more deals, right? Be smarter in the way that you approach things. So that's what I did. I piggybacked off of what was already in front of me.
Awesome. All right. So we do have a bunch of questions. I want to give a shout out to Jerome here saying, he's 30 years in the business, been successful, just wanting to know how he can do more. Jerome, I hope you're learning some things from Christopher here. If you want to throw him a question here specifically, do that. But we'll kick it off here. This is a pretty tactical one. And Christopher, I'm interested in your answer. I have a version of an answer here as well, too.
Mhm.
So, how do you avoid spam filters when emailing videos to customers if they are leads you have not emailed previously?
It's a good question. So I would say if you have a tool available to you, use a video with a thumbnail and maybe a hyperlink instead of attaching just a raw video file, right? You want to avoid some spam words as well, like free or limited time offer. Those things in a subject line will instantly go to a spam area. And you also want to personalize the email, right? If you're reaching out to Mike about his, recent inquiry, you could say something like that in the subject line. But you could actually even make it a little easier than that. For myself, when I'm reaching out via email, there's a Chrome extension I use called Mail Genius, and it will actually give your email a spam score, right? So if it's in red, it'll highlight the things that you need to change. So, and avoiding spam filters and things of that nature, there's actually tools you could use nowadays. Like you used to have to figure it out a few years ago, but now you could download a Chrome extension. So I'd probably start there, but hyperlink your videos versus attaching the raw file and avoid anything that feels like it's a promotion from the Gap store that you signed up for, right? 50% off this weekend or limited time offer, all that stuff's going to go to spam. So just personalize it and hyperlink the videos in.
Awesome, man. Like you said, if you're using a tool like TradePending's video tool, that's going to take care of itself. There's other companies out there that do the same thing. So we got you covered there. Not just us, but the other players in the space too. All right, next question coming in. This is a hot one from Jim. Thank you, Jim. He's asking not just what are the best techniques, Christopher, be ready. What are the super best techniques for getting people to show up for an appointment when you're using video?
All right, so this is a funny one. I took a course on cold calls a couple years ago, and it was double confirming appointments, and it was in almost the most outlandish way. So the guy would say, I think his name was Brian Maxwell, I can't remember, but after I learned this is how I confirmed all my appointments, even when I started selling software. I'd say towards the end, hey Matthew, outside of a natural disaster, is there anything that's going to stop you from showing up for our appointment at this time? And they're like, no, 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 I'll be there. And I was like, all right, just want to make sure. Also, what's your favorite snack, right? I would do this over the phone, or what's your favorite drink, right? Whatever it was. And if I had that, as far as, hey, it's a Sprite or it's a Snickers bar or whatever it is, the day of the appointment, I would send them the snack with the car in the background or whatever it was. It would be a video. Hey man, I got your Sprite right here. Car's right behind me, and that's how I would send it off. But if you're creating an appointment, I would tell you that you would want to double confirm it in some different way. Like, hey, outside of I don't know, however it is that you want to confirm your appointment, then ask them for something as if you're going to service them or give them something. I just want to make sure you're accommodated when you get here. What's your favorite snack, Matthew? right? And you'll say, "Oh, I like Skittles. Okay, red or the blue kind? Oh, I like the blue kind. Awesome." And then the day I'm confirming that appointment, I would have that Skittle right here. Hey, Matthew, got your Skittles right here. That vehicle's right behind me as well. But it's going to start with how you confirm the appointment from the phone conversation. That will give you what you need to put it into a video context, right? Or
Got
put
it.
it in video. Hopefully that's helpful. That's the way I would coach anyone to do it.
Like
But
with automotive, there's like 10 ways to do things, and they can all be right, and that's a great one there. So if somebody is looking for a video provider in automotive, what are the kind of the three main things they should be looking for?
ease of use for one. So all things trade pending, our tools are designed for dealers, you
You
know.
don't have to sell us right now. Just let's keep a big picture, right?
Yeah, but you want to do ease of use and
Why
support.
does that matter?
Well, for one, if you want your sales team using it, it has to be simple, right? So any habit that you want to create, you want to make it frictionless. So the product should be very easy to use, should probably integrate itself into your sales staff and culture the best, right? So ease of use is one that's important. Second thing is going to be support. You know, if something goes down, you want to know how they're going to support you. Do they have, fail safes in place? Do they have quick troubleshoots? How quickly can you get a hold to someone on the weekend? Those type of things. So I would say ease of use, support, and then proven ROI. You want to be with somebody that can show you, hey, this thing works. Here's some data that supports it. And here's examples of maybe myself using it or whatever it is. But ROI, ease of use, and support are probably the three biggest things.
Those are great. All right, so we're approaching the end here. It's gone quick, hasn't it, Christopher?
Yes, it has.
All right. If there's one thing that you're coaching people on when you're bringing video into a dealership, what is that one thing that's just most important for them to ensure that it's going to work for them?
I always tell anyone I speak with that they need to set expectations, right? And this applies at so many different levels. So if I'm speaking to a manager, it's the same thing. Hey, set expectations for your staff, set expectations for what your customer journey should look like. If I'm talking to a salesperson and they want to make sure they have success from the video tool or anything, I say, hey, set those expectations for your customer in any interaction. So if I'm coming at the end of a phone call and I'm like, hey, I'm going to send you a video, you can expect that. I'll send the video off, right? It holds you accountable as well. But most importantly, it helps you guide and steer that customer down the overall buying funnel, buying journey, because it's changing over the past couple of years. It has. And in your videos, same thing. If I send a video out, hey Matthew, after you watch this, I will give you a phone call to see what the next steps are, tell you how we make it easy here, and see if you have any questions. Or you can simply text me by responding back to this video clip. Either way, I'll talk to you in 15 minutes or I'll talk to you in 20 minutes. If you're telling that customer what's next and you're setting those expectations, then you're going to see more engagement and you're going to see more interactions from your customers utilizing video.
I love it. Christopher, thank you. We are reaching here at the end of time. We're going to hop back into this thing real quick here and bring this thing on home. Let's see here. There we go. Backing up here. All right. If you made it this far, as we always do, if you do not yet have your own trade pending Wobbly Bird, that is our mascot, hit up that link. We will send you one. It's free. bit.ly/Wobbly Bird, case sensitive. Off we go. There's our pics of Chris again. It's trade pending. Oh, if you want to get more involved with video and just trading and swapping best practices, join Dealership Video Academy's QR code there. You can also just search for it on Facebook. It's a Facebook group there. There we are. If you've got questions, hit us up. There's our email addresses. Christopher, thank you again for being a part of this today. Great to have you on. I think you should probably have to come back on at some point too. So thank you
Matthew,
everybody for joining us today.
thank you for having me.
See ya.